This video is going to demonstrate moving a virtual machine from a vCenter infrastructure to a Nutanix infrastructure using Nutanix Move. The backend storage is a Dell PowerFlex. So the first thing we'll do is we'll start here in the PowerFlex Manager. This same PowerFlex backs both the vCenter environment and the Nutanix environment. First thing we'll look at is the volume that is presented to the vCenter. So there's a 1 terabyte device, which is the backing for the data store where our virtual machine lives that we're going to move. So here you can see the data store called PowerFlex Nutanix. And if we look at the adapters, you'll see the device here as presented via SDC. And there's our 1 terabyte device. And then if we look at the virtual machine we're going to move, which is called Austin 192, that lives on that same data store. So the VM is going to move from the PowerFlex to the PowerFlex, the same exact environment. Now if we look at the storage pool within the PowerFlex, we can see that it's a 11.05 terabytes. And if we go into our Nutanix setup, which is using external storage, and look at the setup there, we're going to see that it is 11.05 terabytes. So it's the same PowerFlex that backs this Nutanix environment as the vCenter. This is the Nutanix Move application we're going to use to migrate the virtual machine. So we're going to log in. This is a fresh environment. What we need to do is add the source and the target. So our source environment is that vCenter. So you can enter in here any name that you'd like, the IP or the FQDN, and then your username and password. And we'll click on that and just show the existing virtual machines, and you'll see Austin 192, the one that we're going to migrate. Similarly, we're going to put the Nutanix environment in here as the target. So Nutanix AOS. We'll give this a name. Either we're giving it the virtual IP or one of the CVMs. And we'll also look at this environment just to show the existing virtual machines and that there is no virtual machine called Austin 192 in this one. So let's create the migration plan. So the migration plan is going to dictate any rules that we have set up, how to get from one environment to the other. So we select our source and our target. And then we also need to select the container on the Nutanix. We want it to go to the PowerFlex. Here's our Austin 192. We're going to select just this one virtual machine. We need a target network, in this case called Prism. This is set up ahead of time in Nutanix, and this is just my public network. You can also set up a test network. We're not using that here. Now, the vast majority of these settings you will not change. Preparation mode, retaining an IP, you'll have to give it credentials depending on the type of virtual machine. But otherwise, this is generally wizard we're going to click through. If you have multiple virtual machines, you want to set priorities. The one thing here you want to make sure that you keep checked is the retain MAC address. That can cause issues if you don't leave that checked with IP. And here we completed the plan. We can save it. We're not going to start it yet because what we want to do is we want to look at an application that's running on the VM just to show that it comes over properly. So here's our Austin 192. So this is on the vCenter, so we haven't started moving anything. We're going to log into MySQL, and we're going to look at one of the tables and enter in a row. That way we can see that the table comes over just as it was originally intended. So we'll look at the title table, And let's insert a row in here with the employee number of 1, and our title is going to be pre-move. So we should expect to see this one row in existence when we complete the migration. So you click the checkbox, and then you go up to Actions and tell it to start. Now this is a multi-step process, validation, and then it will get to where it's going to have to begin seeding the data. If you click on the in progress, you'll get to another screen here where you can see the detail. So the first thing it does is it deletes all the existing snapshots on the source VM. You can see these in the tasks. And then it does a few checks, and then it creates the initial snapshot on the virtual machine so that it can begin copying data. So it creates a snapshot, and come over and you look at the tasks. You can see it here, created the virtual machine snapshot. And there's the test VMDK disk, and it's going to be copying over this. There are 2 disks to this virtual machine, each 100 gig. So it's got to copy all that data, and it will not consolidate. It's going to create 2 different disks for the virtual machine. And you can see there we just checked to make sure there was no virtual machine yet, and it doesn't create anything until it completes the process. So the video has been moved along, obviously, because the migration can take some time depending on your network. This is a copy, too. We're doing a network copy. So we've completed the copy. So you can see the VM's not here yet, still hasn't been created. And then over here, it's in the same state. It's still up and running because we haven't done a cutover. The cutover process is where we'll initiate shutdown of the source VM and then move it over to the target. So you can see here, we'll shut down the source VM, disconnect the NICs so we don't have IP issues, and it'll even add some notes to the virtual machine. The cutover is pretty quick as long as you're not actively running I/O against the primary here in the source. So you can see it's running the guest OS shutdown. It's going to do a final data sync. Does a configuration on your target VM. This is setting up the guest. So here's the VM. It popped up. If you look at the tasks, you'll see it just created the VM, right? And it's downstate as it completes. And now it's going to start everything up. So if you click on the view target, you'll come back out. You can see it's powered it on. And so let's come back out and try to get into the new virtual machine. The old virtual machine has been migrated. So let's restart our session. So this is now we're attached to Austin 192 in the Nutanix setup. And we'll do the same thing here going into that title table and just make sure it looks the same as it did when it was in the vCenter. And there's our pre-move row. So application came over successfully with no issue. If we look at the virtual machine disks, recall I said there were 2 100 gig disks. Remember on the PowerFlex, because of how the devices are created and the sizing, we should be looking for devices that are 104 gig. And you can see that there's going to be 2 of these. Note that they're snapshots because that's what has to be used as part of the Move migration. Right, but they're active volumes which can be used just like this. And the migration is complete.